Mr. Speaker, the Electrify Africa Act is a direct response to the problem that nearly 600 million people living in sub-Saharan Africa do not have access to reliable electricity. The Electrify Africa Act offers a market-based response to that problem, and it does through U.S. private sector investment to develop affordable, reliable energy in Africa, and most importantly, it does so at no additional cost to the taxpayer. Why do we want to help increase energy access to the African continent? To create jobs, to improve lives. It'll improve lives in Africa. It'll create jobs there and here in the United States. It's no secret that Africa has great potential as a trading partner and could help create jobs here in the U.S. As the Foreign Affairs Committee investigated how to make better use of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, landmark legislation that we passed over a decade ago to expand trade with Africa, we learned that the lack of affordable, reliable energy made the production of goods for trade and export nearly impossible. How impossible? Well, I'll just give an example. We were in Liberia looking at the interrupted power that is always a problem there. Even at our own embassy, the cost of running that diesel generator is $10,000 a day sometimes when they have to get that thing up and running in order to keep power generated. Now, you can imagine the problem when you're talking about a country with as much power generation and as much electricity as the size of the electricity that lights up the Dallas Cowboy Stadium. That is the problem that one country has. And you can imagine what it would mean if we could bring online electricity in order to electrify the subcontinent. Now, I would also remind the members that the United States is not alone in its interest in enhancing trade with Africa through investment in energy. And the example I would give you is China, because China has stepped in to direct $2 billion towards energy projects on the continent. And as I speak, the Chinese premier is in Africa signing deals that favor Chinese companies over American businesses. The United States wishes to tap into the potential consumer base there in sub-Saharan Africa. We must act now. And this bill will also have a tangible impact on people's lives, as I said. As former chairman of the Africa Subcommittee, I've seen firsthand how our considerable investments in improving access to health care, improving access to education in Africa, are undermined by the lack of reliable energy. In many places, school children are forced to study by inefficient, dangerous kerosene lamps. Cold storage of life-saving vaccines is almost impossible without the existence of reliable electricity. Too many families resort to using charcoal and other inefficient and highly toxic sources of fuel, whose fumes in Africa today cause more deaths than HIV, AIDS, and malaria combined. Many of us on the committee have worked to transform our foreign assistance programs that offer extensive band-aids to policies that support economic growth. The Electrify Africa Act is part, frankly, of a very important transition here. This bill mandates a clear and comprehensive U.S. policy providing the private sector with the certainty that it needs to invest in African electricity at no cost to the U.S. taxpayer. In fact, the bill is predicted to generate savings by requiring the Overseas Private Investment Corporation to focus on these energy priorities and undertake much-needed permanent reforms. I will reserve the balance of my time, Mr. Speaker.